My mother's name is Blossom, and we always used to say that my mother blossomed and in the second half of her life in a way that was inspiring to us, I think to lots of people who were around her. Being Jewish in Orange County, especially we lived in Newport Beach, there were very few Jews at the schools that we went to.
And we knew we were Jewish, and we, lit candles on Shabbat.
And we're very much part of the leadership and the community effort of whatever synagogue that we were a part of, and really showed us that Jewish life by example.
That probably was foundational to the way she thought about what her place might be in a larger community when she got more involved with the Federation and other things.
Mom was always a role model. That's what I can tell you for sure. But she's always lived by example. Found her voice, developed it, and embraced the community at large.
You're working with a lot of volunteers, and she cares about those volunteers. She cares enough to make sure that what's done is the right thing to do, because she always looks at it more from a human perspective than anything.
She never be selfish, and she's always wants to share love and then happiness. I think it is very beautiful. And then not so many people can do that from the bottom of the heart.
She loved how much it inspired people for their own participation in the Jewish community.
Her top priority is always to make sure the Jewish community in Orange County and beyond, and in Israel, were well cared for. And she helped guide me in that role.
To know that my mother was a huge part of what this has grown to be makes me very proud. I've always been very proud to be her daughter.
She is that beautiful combination of donor, but also giving in leadership, that expression. She gives up her time, her treasure, and her talent. That's what makes her so special. She always has more to give, and it's an unbelievable combination.
She's taught us that you get what you give, but what she always says is she always gets more back than what she's given.
She's laid the groundwork for allowing so many of us to aspire to be like her, to be that generous donor, to be that great leader, to be the role model for so many of us. And I think there's so many of us that will aspire to be her, and I know that it will go from generation to generation.
As a female, to look at someone who might have not been brought up in the generation where women can stand up and speak and have an opinion in these certain roles that they facilitate in, I see her as someone who has broken all those boundaries. She opened the door for us.
Youth leadership is my mother's legacy, and I am so proud of her for that.
At a time when the entire Jewish community, and particularly the Federation itself, was very young, the Young Leadership Division was difficult, and they wanted to shut it down, and she stood up for it. And the argument against it was, it's just a place where the kids are getting together to meet.
And my mother said, and is that so bad? If Jewish adults meet each other someplace, that's not good enough?
NextGen may have not been around, and likely wouldn't have, if it wasn't for Blossom's generosity and vision and making young leadership such a priority.
And without Blossom's support of NextGen and allowing the programming to take place, for the institution to take place, for the entry point to take place and the activities, I wouldn't have come.
She saw it as the means of the future. If we didn't bring up young leadership, we wouldn't have leadership when her generation before her, decided to step out.
There is this side where Blossom created the forum that allowed us to develop as leaders. She created the continuation of NextGen.
We were able to enter the organization through the Young Leadership Division, and that led us to where we are today.
My business partner, the Gerber and Miller Gerber, is somebody I met through Jewish Federation. One of our associates, who's a good friend of mine, is through Federation. It just this ripple effect she creates of building community and getting others involved, but in a way she created it all through the initial actions of what she did.
As the 2018 Women's Philanthropy Woman of the Year, I am honored to introduce the Jewish Federation and Family Services Above and Beyond Award to FOTOS-SIEGEL.